In the previous episode, we saw Killian running towards the protagonist's room in a panic to inform her about new investigation findings regarding the leak of weaponry information.
Edith's father has found proofs against you. He will call you in soon. How will you explain yourself now?
Well, I should congratulate him for trying so hard to frame me for something I didn't do.
What are you talking about? Do you think this is funny? Or do you really not have any fear of Duke Rudwick?
Well, I know that I am too essential to the plotline to disappear yet. In the original novel, Edith actually committed the crime, but the Duke let her go.
I can't understand you.
The Rhinon interrupts the conversation and informs that Mr. Duke Rudwick is calling Lady Edith.
Cheer up, Killian. Shouldn't you be happy you have proof?
In the next scene, during the conversation, Mr. Duke presents a handwritten note that seems to resemble the protagonist's writing. He suggested that, given the losses her father had endured due to the incident, he would refrain from imposing any punishment if she decided to be honest about leaking the info.
Your Grace, this is not a matter of punishment. This is a matter of my honor, and if you compare this to the documents I have written in the past. I don't write such sloppy tables. This document was written by someone who does not understand how to organize the table properly.
Mr. Duke still keeps on accusing her of intentionally faking her handwriting.
Why would I? If I were afraid of being caught, I wouldn't have used my handwriting to begin with.
To prove her innocence, the protagonist orders Rhinon to bring her diary for the comparison of both handwritings. The protagonist in her mind.
Even though the tables might be shabby, whoever wrote this understands the basic principles. If the Mrs. Duchess, Rice, or someone else I taught this method, tried to frame me, it would make perfect sense. But why would Duke Rudwick go that far? He didn't have to make things so complicated. It's almost as if someone wants to frame me, Edith, just like in the original novel.
Rhinon brings the diary, and the protagonist tries to show the difference between both handwritings. As you can see, my handwriting is slightly different. If you look at the Q in my diary, it's completely different from the Q in the so-called evidence. Thus, you can see this is a carefully forged document. And you need to find the rat who did it, Your Grace.
Suddenly, there's a knock at the door. Rice stands outside the room, having been summoned by the Duke for further questioning about the matter. The Duke asks Rice who else knows about the table method, but she pretends that she doesn't understand the method at all and claims that no one understands it either.
She didn't understand it? But when I taught her last time, I'm sure she said yes, I got everything. Why is she doing this?
Mr. Duke asks Rice to leave and accuses Edith of leaking information based on Rice's testimony.
The tables look nothing like what I usually use. The writing doesn't match. Even after I show you all this evidence, you trust Rice's words over mine.
I can't remember the exact details of how Rice proved Edith culprit in the original novel, but I thought someone as honest and kind as Rice would have some credible evidence. Not some shoddy story like this. Perhaps she didn't have any evidence to use because I never did it in the first place.
Wait, where my diary is. Killian! What are you thinking now? Oh my God, you can't just read someone's diary. None of you even have a shred of respect for me, do you? Killian!
Mr. Duke accepts he doesn't have any valid point and definitive evidence either way. He closes this case for now and rescinds the house arrest order. The scene shifts and we see the protagonist and Killian arguing.
I can't trust you.
I know, you never trusted me, and you never will.
After everything that's happened with the Reigelhoffs, don't you think my suspicion is justified?
How many times do I need to tell you that I have nothing to do with what my family does?
But you did play a part in it. Are you going to deny what you have done to help your father's scheme so far?
What are you saying?
Suddenly, the protagonist was overwhelmed by flashbacks, with a million different scenes flashing through her mind. Not only had she seduced men for information, but she had also disrupted parties of families allied with the Rudwicks and ruined several of their engagements. After reliving all of Edith's past wrongdoings, the protagonist stood silently, consumed by guilt, with no words to defend herself.
Let me take you to your room.
So much happened all at once. Although I'm no longer under house arrest, I can't stop thinking about Rice. She is nothing like the Rice I read about in the novel.
Passing through the hall, Killian recalls what the protagonist had written in her diary about how much she admired and thought about him. This irritates Killian so much that he demands a duel with Cliff to quell his inexplicable irritation. The scene shifts to the next morning. We see the protagonist visit Mrs. Duchess. Mrs. Duchess was also waiting for the protagonist to come to meet her in person.
I heard you went through a lot yesterday, Edith. Sometimes emotional burdens are harder than physical burdens.
Mother, Your Grace. I truly never leaked any information out of Manor. I know you won't trust me. I don't care if I am put under house arrest for longer. I can swear it on my life. I can never do this.
I trust you, Edith. It must have been so hard on you. I trust you, Edith. I know you tried your best to help me. I have seen you struggling to find your place here. How could I not know? I have been in your shoes before. I don't know who pulled this nasty prank, but I know you are not responsible for it, my dear.
After hearing all these kind and gentle words, the protagonist breaks down and cries like a lost child who has finally found her home.
In my father's home, I was never.
As the protagonist is on the edge of revealing her father's hidden truth, a sudden wave of darkness overcomes her, accompanied by the sharp noise of beeping echoing in her mind. After that, we see a servant scrambled towards the training ground, where Killian was engaged in a duel. Breathless, the servant delivered news of the protagonist's alarming condition. Without a moment's hesitation, Killian dashed away, urgency driving him to her side. Tension hangs in the air as the protagonist's condition comes to light. After a thorough examination, the doctor suggests that her fainting spell stems from the immense stress she's been under lately. It seems the weight of her experiences has taken a considerable toll on her well-being.
She remained confident in front of my father during the interrogation yesterday, but later she cried until her eyes turned red. It's hard to believe that the proud and arrogant Edith Reigelhoff would cry so much that she fainted. What did you discuss with her mother?
She insisted that she never leaked any information from the manor, knowing I wouldn't believe her.
She has been saying that all along.
I told her that I believed in her and trusted her. That was when she started crying. She said no one had trusted her until now. She thanked me. Edith must have been longing to hear that.
I know you never trusted me, and you never will be.
Killian found himself reflecting on his words to the protagonist from the previous day, a weight of guilt settling in. Out of nowhere, a piercing pain shot through his head. Each time he attempted to connect with the protagonist, an unseen barrier seemed to push him back. Meanwhile, Mrs. Duchess called for the doctor, but Killian intervened, urging his mother that he would be fine.
It's just a headache. I'll get better after a bit of rest.
As Rice made her way over, drawn by the news about the protagonist, she noticed Killian standing there, looking far from well. Concerned for both him and Edith, she had come to check on them. Just as her hand reached out towards him, he instinctively pulled away, subtly signaling his need for space.
I'm fine, Rice. Sorry, I need to rest.
We see our protagonist falling somewhere deep in darkness.
Where am I? It's pitch black. Wait, did I die again? All I did was cry.
In the depths of darkness, a sudden prompt window materialized before the protagonist, its message cryptic and foreboding. It warned her that her secret must remain hidden until she met 3 unknown conditions. As she strained to comprehend her situation, clarity began to seep back into her mind. She awoke with a jolt, gasping for air, her memory a blank slate regarding the system and its ominous prompt. The conditions were a mystery, and until they were fulfilled, her lips were sealed. Anna, her loyal maid, informed her that she had been unconscious for 2 days. The realization hit her like a thunderbolt. Her words to the Duchess had rendered her consciousness for days. Attempting to approach the subject again, she felt her consciousness slipping away, the system's warning echoing in her mind. She cut herself off, choosing to remain silent, the weight of the unknown pressing heavily upon her. And the protagonist wondered about Killian's visit but paused, reluctant to invite a negative response. She caught herself mid-thought and decided to dismiss the question altogether.
When I woke up in Edith's body for the first time, I thought I was the main character of a reincarnation story. I believed that as long as I had a good heart and acted righteously, I could avoid death, resolve conflicts, and become the protagonist's friend. I even held on to the idea that I would have a love story of my own. However, now I realized that hope was futile. I decided to live a quiet life. After giving up on my marriage, I was content to live as the lady of a wealthy household. Yet, my life continued to follow the original story, regardless of my plans. No matter what I did, the outcomes always aligned with the original storyline, as if a strange power were guiding my life to ensure everything proceeded as intended. I had been mistaken from the start. I could not change the story. Neither Edith nor I are the main characters. This is not our story. Edith Reigelhoff is the villain of this romantic fantasy, and her role is not significant enough for the novel to elaborate on her backstory. She is fated to be killed by her husband's sword, and I am doomed to a tragic ending.
Feeling overwhelmed by the surveillance by the original storyline, the protagonist reflects on Edith's experiences. That night, inspired by the novel, the protagonist decides to sneak into Killian's bedroom, attempting to kiss him while he sleeps. It's an echo of Edith's past attempts at seduction, a blend of nerves and determination guiding her actions.
I know he resents being forced to marry me, yet sometimes he acts like he cares, which makes me cling to foolish hope. After this incident, I wish he would hate me as he's supposed to so I can sort out my own feelings. When he wakes up, I know he will look at me with disgust.
Nothing unfolded as she had anticipated. Suddenly, Killian's eyes opened, and in a surprising twist, he seized her hand. Before she could process it, he pushed her onto his bed, his grip unwavering. A palpable tension filled the room, their breaths intertwining in the thick air. The moment was charged. Each heartbeat resonated like a drum in the stillness.
Satisfy me, Edith. Seduce me like the Reigelhoffs taught you. Who knows? I might end up attached to your body.
The protagonist halted Killian, her eyes searching his.
Are you sure about this?
She whispered, her voice trembling with the weight of the moment.
It's your first time, and you were saving yourself for Rice.
Killian's breath hitched, the gravity of his decision hanging in the air between them. The tension was palpable, each heartbeat echoing the unspoken emotions swirling around them.
I should be asking you that question. Aren't you the one who was so confident in yourself that you would crawl into my bed in the middle of the night?
The air thick with anticipation as Killian and the protagonist finally shared their first kiss. It started soft, almost tender, but soon grew hungrier, the heat between them undeniable. In one swift motion, he removed his shirt, the muscles in his chest and arms flexing in the dim light. He took her hand, guiding it over his bare skin, his voice a low growl, filled with raw desire. Now, he whispered, his lips grazing her ear.
You can touch me as you want.
The protagonist's heart raced, her skin tingling at the realization, Killian had read her diary. He knew every secret thought, every hidden desire she'd ever had about him. Her face flushed, not just with the intimacy of the moment, but with the embarrassment and thrill of knowing he'd read her deepest fantasies. As their eyes met, Killian's expression shifted, a flicker of uncertainty flashing in his usually confident gaze.
Is this what you wanted?
He asked, his voice softer now, almost vulnerable.
Am I what you wanted?
She could hardly form words, too overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. Instead, she nodded, and that was all the confirmation he needed. His mouth claimed hers again, more fervently this time, his hands trailing down her body, igniting every nerve. The room dissolved into passion, all thoughts abandoned except for the feel of each other. Morning came too soon. The protagonist woke, her mind swirling with disbelief. Her mind is struggling to process what had happened between them. As she is trying to process everything, Killian comes near her and lifts her in his arms and carries her to the bathtub. And reminds her how she was dozed off in the tub on the first night. The protagonist doesn't get what exactly is happening with her suddenly.
Even if he ended up doing it last night on a whim, I expected him to immediately regret it in the morning. He forfeited his first kiss and his virginity that he had been saving for Rice all this time, all because of a momentary lapse in judgment at my seduction. In fact, Killian never seemed like someone who would fall for Edith's seduction in the first place. Perhaps he pitied me? Or perhaps he is trying to replace Rice since she is practically Cliff's now.
I'm sorry I exhausted you while you were still recovering. You should take it easy for the next few days.
After the wedding, how cold he was with me, I could never have imagined his gentle voice now. I don't know what changed, but he held me last night while calling my name. And that was truly.
Wake up!
Those around her couldn't help but notice her growing detached. Her mind was clearly preoccupied with the Killian's action and weird dream from the previous night. In that dream, a system window reappeared, offering congratulations for meeting the first condition.
Due to the changing circumstances, some of the original creator's authority has been revoked in the novel storyline. Is the first condition now going to be disengaged? Is this referring to the 3 conditions from when I lost consciousness? I doubt you will answer any of my questions, but what was the first condition?
The protagonist tries to talk to the system, but its answer shocks her. The system tells her she must follow the same path that led to Edith's failure. However, to change her fate, she must succeed in every challenge. This rule is set by the system or maybe the author of the story to work against her. But the original creator lost control when she met the first condition. This suggests there's a powerful force, like a god or the will of the story itself, which is trying to keep everything on track.
How can the original creator's authority be revoked in a novel that's already been published? In what areas and how much of it was revoked? And how much has their authority influenced the events thus far? On each event, each character, or the general sequence of events? And what links everything together, and where is this original creator?
The protagonist began to understand that certain actions could shift the direction of the narrative of this story, allowing her to influence the unfolding events in unexpected ways.
I need to see how Killian will respond to the next incident in the story.
In the morning, the protagonist decides to pay a visit to Mrs. Duchess. It was important for her to resume their work together. Otherwise, the protagonist risked being seen as merely a nominal bride, carrying the weight of disgrace and barred from managing significant matters. Such a perception could lead to a loss of respect from those around her.
If it's okay with you, I would like to keep helping with work, Mother.
The scene shifts to the protagonist arriving in Rhinon's workplace, where the responsibilities are quietly passed to her. As she takes on this new role, memories from her past life begin to surface, revealing glimpses of her former self.
In my past life, I hated my boss who constantly emphasized that the team was like family. As someone who takes pride in my work and doesn't like to flatter others, they often labeled me as unsociable and undervalued my professional skills.
The scene shifts to a dining table where Cliff, Killian, and Rice are gathered. Cliff calls Rhinon to inquire about the protagonist's performance and if he has noticed anything unusual in her behavior. Killian feels uneasy listening to Cliff. He knows the protagonist asked for supervision herself and dislikes how Cliff is portraying her. As he thinks about her, a sharp pain shoots through his head, making him question his own thoughts. Killian wonders, why do you care how he speaks about Edith? Killian has also been instructed to keep an eye on the documents the protagonist handles to ensure none go missing. Rhinon then speaks up, correcting Cliff. He explains that the protagonist volunteered to help him and has been working diligently without complaint, despite his office being quite modest for someone like her. He praises her attention to detail, focus, decision-making skills, and above all, her grit and strength of character. Everyone is surprised by Rhinon's praise, as it's rare for him to commend someone so highly. Cliff thanks Rhinon and asks him to keep watching the protagonist. Rice comments on how impressive it is that Edith has won Rhinon's admiration so quickly. Cliff speculates whether Rhinon has fallen for her. Killian, frustrated by their gossip, leaves the table, overthinking everything about the protagonist.
Edith has a unique beauty compared to Rice. If Rhinon spends hours alone with such a seductive woman, anything could happen to a man's heart.
Killian approaches the protagonist's door with all these thoughts in his mind, and as he opens it, he's unexpectedly greeted by the scent of roses. A fragrance he once disliked now feels strangely comforting. He scans the room but doesn't see the protagonist. His eyes land on a pair of cute dolls that resemble him and Edith. Just then, the protagonist appears, flustered, and quickly moves the dolls out of Killian's sight.
This is just a hobby, my new hobby. It's not good enough to show others. Anyway, why are you entering my room without my permission?
Killian reassures her, and they sit together in an awkward silence. To break the tension, Edith asks why he came to see her. Killian compliments her on her excellent work. Feeling a bit shy, Edith responds,
It's all thanks to Mother. I started helping her secretary, Baron Rhinon Filch. Maybe you know him.
She immediately feels silly for mentioning the secretary's name.
Of course he knows Rhinon is one of the key staff in this house.
Killian nods, explaining that he knows the Filches well. He shares he grew up with Rhinon as a child and how Viscount Theo Filch, Rhinon's father, used to be his father's secretary. Killian's father had granted them their own land, and now Rhinon has taken over his father's role in the capital as a secretary. The protagonist is surprised, as she never knew this about Rhinon. In the original novel, there was no mention of Rhinon's backstory, but it seems he has a significant past with the main characters. This realization makes her uneasy, especially since this is Killian's first visit since that night. She wonders why he is suddenly sharing all this information with her.
You seem curious about my visit. I will soon travel south to the Raisin territory.
The protagonist remembers that this land was granted to Killian because, as the Duke's second son, he wouldn't inherit the kingdom.
I will be gone for quite a while by any chance. Do you want to join me?
The protagonist, surprised, seeks confirmation.
Do you really want me to join you on the trip?
The scene shifts and we see Killian standing outside the protagonist's door, his face clouded with disappointment. She hadn't believed him when he invited her on the trip and had simply wished him a safe journey.
You joke too much, but thanks for inviting me. Have a safe journey.
Killian stands outside the protagonist's door, regretting his invitation. His maid informs him, "Young master, your father is waiting for you outside." In the next scene, we see the protagonist has just finished her work and notices Rhinon watching her. She approaches him, and he quickly says it's nothing, adding, "Mrs. Grace asked you to drop by when you're done." As she leaves, Rhinon looks to her desk and checks the documents she handles and is astonished by her efficiency. She has organized everything in a day, a task that usually takes a week. In the next scene, Mrs. Duchess shares some news with Rice and the protagonist about the upcoming charity auction hosted by Countess Erminia next month. She suggests that they should host a sewing party at their house starting the following day and inquires if they would be interested in participating. The protagonist reminisces about this moment.
This marks the beginning of the charity auction incident. The gentle ladies typically offer their embroidered pieces for these charity auctions. In this society, needlework is considered an essential skill for any woman. This event provides the perfect opportunity to showcase one's abilities. Consequently, when a charity auction is announced, every lady of noble lineage seeks to participate in a sewing party, regardless of her age. Given the Rudwick family standing among the houses aligned with the emperor, Duchess Rudwick is sure to host one of these parties. However, I worry that my skills are nowhere near good enough for such an event. I feel I must turn down the invitation.
The protagonist tries to decline the invitation, but Rice insists, saying she can only muster the courage to attend if Edith joins her. Mrs. Duchess also starts urging Edith to go. The next day, Rice presents a beautifully crafted piece of cloth, leaving the protagonist puzzled about why Rice was worried about being a burden. Everyone gathers around Rice, praising her skills. The protagonist tries to recall if Rice had created something like this in the novel. Rice then shifts the focus to the protagonist, asking what she plans to make. Hesitant, the protagonist finally says she'll make a handkerchief. Meanwhile, a scene shifts to Killian, who has arrived at the Raisin territory with his father, observing the area from a mountain cliff. A sense of relief washes over him as he realizes the territory exceeds his initial expectations. He had feared what he might inherit, worrying that it would be insufficient compared to the grandeur of the Duke's kingdom. Despite the castle's modest upkeep and sparse decorations, it is in relatively good condition. He notes the need to find a skilled furniture craftsman upon returning to the capital. Killian ponders the circumstances further, recognizing that being a Reigelhof means wealth, but doubts linger about whether an old estate like this would satisfy Edith, who has spent her life in the capital. As he surveys the territory, his father questions him whether this would be enough for him.
And what if it's not enough for me? Should I demand more land? A higher title? Or would you be so kind as to hand me my brother's position? Shall I ask you to name me your heir? To designate me as the next duke? After all this time, what could you possibly want from me to even pose that question? I've done everything you ever wanted. There was only one dream I held on to, and you crushed it mercilessly by marrying me off to a Reigelhof.
It seemed that all the anger stemmed from Killian's fantasies. He may have nodded in agreement, expressing satisfaction, but Mr. Duke could perceive a deeper truth. Killian was far from happy. There was a sense of disgust in him regarding the choices his father had made on his behalf.
Don't worry about me, father. Once you transfer the deed, I will move here with my wife and manage the land.
Finally the day had arrived for the charity auction, resembling a lively carnival, with a myriad of items for sale. As the protagonist and Rice wandered from stall to stall, they took in the variety of offerings, from food to jewelry. Rice noted that their own pieces were on display, and Rice exclaimed over a piece that had already been marked with a ribbon, indicating its sale. It seemed the auction was proving to be quite competitive.
Let's go check out the pieces over there.
As they moved on, the protagonist reflected on the situation, Cliff, Rice's love interest, had the perfect chance to acquire her donations while she tried to avoid the embarrassment of her handkerchief standing out among the more impressive creations. As they moved through the event, whispers began to circulate about Rice. What has the world come to? A bastard at a charity auction. One lady murmured. That bastard is now a ward of Duke Rudwick. Apparently, the Duke and Duchess fawn over her. Perhaps they're keeping her as a sort of pet. The protagonist couldn't help but think that some things never change, no matter the world. She noted,
They know we can hear their gossip, yet they have no shame. All these low-class country women, parading around the charity auction. They must be from some tiny town out in the sticks. I don't even recognize any of their faces.
One of the gossiping women retorted, If you can't even recognize Countess Brynn, then perhaps you should reflect on your learning and refinement, Lady Reigelhoff. The protagonist replied,
Perhaps you should reflect on your own refinement before you attempt to scold others. You should know my family name changed months ago. And your manners, accosting an innocent passerby like this, are quite lacking.
Another woman chimed in, I'd heard the Rudwicks made a bad choice in their daughter-in-law, but I never thought she would be this terrible. She makes the bastard of theirs look downright pleasant. At least she knows her place in life.
And what does that make you? The person who must listen to someone even less than a bastard. You know what will happen to the Bryns if Cliff hears about what you said.
At the mention of Cliff's name, the gossiping women quickly scattered. After the gossipers leave, Rice apologizes to the protagonist for the unpleasant encounter. The protagonist asks if she knows those women, and Rice confirms they are friends of Countess Sinclair. The protagonist pets Rice and comforts her. Later, we see Killian return from his trip and the protagonist sees him talking to Rice. The protagonist considers greeting him but hesitates, fearing she might be ignored. Yet, she knows that not greeting him would spark more gossip among the ladies. As Killian glances her way, their eyes meet, locking in a moment of silent understanding.
I missed you. Did you have a nice journey?
Shit, I almost told him I missed him.
Killian, why are you looking at me like that?
It's nothing. It was a very nice journey. Did anything happen while I was away?
Nothing much. I was just a little bored.
Why? Because I wasn't around?
Not everything is about you, Killian.
Feeling bored and having had too much iced tea, the protagonist excuses herself. As she heads to the restroom, a shadowy figure emerges from behind the walls. The unknown person grabs her hand and pulls her into a corner. To her shock, the figure turns out to be Edith's.
Hey, if you enjoyed this content and made it to the end of the video, I would love for you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Your support will motivate me to create even more amazing videos. Let's embark on this journey together. Click that subscribe button and be part of our adventure. Thank you so much.